So for this assignment, it is at the very top. It says it's basically talking about the same stuff that we've been going over. So we've been going over multiplying times positive numbers and negative numbers, and we've also been multiplying and dividing by fractions. So basically, it's going to be the same things that we've been covering. The only thing is that this time we are going to be covering a couple of mixed fractions and dividing by two fractions. So those are two things that are kind of new. So the first thing that I'm going to cover is at the very top of page number 1 on assignment number 8. It talks about how is the process for multiplying and dividing fractions different. So basically, it's almost the same thing. So when you're dividing two fractions, all you have to do is get the reciprocal of the second fraction. So you have to, the first fraction divided by, and then the second fraction. On the second fraction, you just have to flip it around, and then you multiply it. And so we've multiplied fractions in class before. It's actually really easy. The top number is multiplied by the top number, and then the bottom number is multiplied times the bottom number. So for the top one, let's say like it's a fraction like 1/3 times 1/3. So the top number, you would multiply 1 times 1 because number 1 is on the top. Let me see if I can maybe share my screen and then kind of write it down on a piece of paper. So let me see if I can do that. So let me see if I can do that one. Okay. So let me see if I can share, and then we'll go here. Okay, so, all right. Cool. Okay, so let me try and see if I can do this. So let's say that we're multiplying. So whoever's like drawing on it, just stop drawing so that way we can cover this stuff. So let's say that we're multiplying a couple numbers like, let's say it's 2. Let's say 2 divided by 4 multiplied times 3 divided by 4. Okay, we're just gonna stop doing that then, I guess. So I was gonna help you guys out with that, but I guess if you guys are gonna be drawing on it, then we can't do that then. So advanced share options. Let me see if I can. So basically, I'm just gonna have to say it verbally then. So on an assignment like this, so like let's say you're doing it's like 1 divided by 3, and then the second number is 1 divided by 3. So the top numbers are going to be 1 on both of the fractions. So what you're doing with the second fraction, that's 1/3, you're going to have to flip it around. So 1/3 divided by 1/3, you would flip over the second 1/3. So now it's going to be 3/1, and then you're going to multiply 1 times 3 and 3 times 1 on the bottom, and that's it. So it's whenever you have two fractions, like let me see on assignment number 8. Let me show you on page number 2. So on page number 2, one of the very first fractions is, let's see. Okay, so we can cover -2/3 divided by 1/2. So if everybody's on the second page, and it is -2/3 divided by 1/2. So what you're going to do with that one is that 1/2, you're going to flip it around, and it's going to be 2/1. So then all you're going to do in that case is then you're just going to multiply across. So now it's going to be -2/3 times 2/1. So that's how you divide fractions. So now it's going to be -2 times 2, which is going to be 4. So -4. And then the bottom number is going to be 3. And then the bottom number on the second one is going to be 1. So now it's 3 times 1. So now you're going to have -4/3. And that would be the answer for that one, -4/3. Okay, so then, so let me see if I can show you guys on the, okay, so yeah, let me show you guys like this then. So, so like for that same thing that I was talking about, so it's -2/3, and then it's divided by 1/2. So in this one, instead of doing -2/3 divided by 1/2, all you're doing is you're going to flip these around. So now the new thing is going to be negative. Actually, let's see. So now, so it's going to be multiplied times 2/1. So now you just multiply across. So this multiplied times that, and then that multiplied times that. Okay, so 2 times 2, that's going to be 4 on the top. And then the bottom one is going to be 3 times 1. So 3. And this is going to be a negative. Because over here, the first one is a negative, the second one is a positive. So it's going to be -4/3. So that's the answer for that question. So going back to number 1 on page 1. So on page 1 of assignment number 8, how is the process for multiplying and dividing fractions different? So for this one, it's going to be dividing fractions uses the reciprocal of the second number, and then multiplying fractions does not. So let me go over that first one. So the first one is super easy. So the first one, all it is 7 times 6, right? So that is something that's super easy. We've done several times in class. I mean, you know, this should be easy for everyone. So 7 times 6 is going to be just a positive 42, right? So positive 42, right? Where it gets, I guess, like a little bit difficult for some of you is when we have negative numbers. So when you're starting to add negative numbers, like the second one right there is negative 8 times negative 11. So when you have something like that, like negative 8 times negative 11, it's a negative times a negative. So now it's going to be a positive. So negative 8 times 11 is actually a positive 88. Right? So whenever you have two signs that are the same, like a negative and a negative, whether you're dividing or whether you're multiplying a negative times a negative or dividing a negative times a negative, the answer is always going to be positive. The only time the answer will ever be negative is if you're multiplying a negative number times a positive number, so the signs are opposite, or you're dividing one positive number and dividing one negative number. That's the only time that the answer will be a negative answer. Okay, so let me see here. Let me go to the next one. So when there's one of the questions on page 1, it shows 48 over, and then there's a negative 6 like this on the bottom. All right. That's kind of like a ugly negative 6. So there you go. So 48 over negative 6 like that. So for this case, we just have to do the normal dividing like we always do. So the normal dividing that we always do is going to be like this. So that 48, just like how we always talk about, you know, the cowboy rides the horse, so the cowboy's going to sleep inside, right? So the 48 is going to be in here. And then that 6 is going to be out here. And then you just have to try to figure out how many times does 6 go into 48. Right? So 6 doesn't go into 4, so you have to do 6 into 48. So 6 goes into 48. How many times? It's going to be 8. And then 6 times 8 is 48. And then so this right here is going to zero out. And this answer is a negative answer. So it's a negative 8 because this negative number down here, so basically it's 48 over negative 6. So this answer is going to be a negative 8. And that's one of the answers on page number 1. Once you guys start going to the second square, the second half of page 48, I mean on page number 1 on assignment number 8. So that second half, that second square is going to be doing this now. So 4.5 times 3. So this is the way you're going to have to set those up. And then all you do is 3 times 5, right? 15. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1, 13. And then just like how we would do it in class all the time, you got to remember that there's a 1 decimal place right here. So if you started here, it would move over once, and the decimal is going to be right there. So that answer is going to be 13.5. So what if you had the same question like that, but what if in this case it was 4.5 times a -3 down here? So if you had something like that, 4.5 times a -3, it would be the same process. You would still do 15. 4 times 3 is still 12 plus 1, so that's still a 13 down here. But because one of them was a negative, the whole answer is going to be -13.5. Same exact process, same everything, but now it's negative. But now let's say that we had a negative for the top number and the bottom number. So -4.5 times -3. So it'd be the same exact process. So still 15 right here, still 4 times 3, which is 12 plus 1. So still 13 right here. But now because both of the numbers are negative and a negative, now the answer is going to be positive. So the easiest way to remember this stuff, guys, is that if both of the signs are the same, so negative and a negative or a positive times a positive, the answer will be a positive. If the signs are different, if either the top one is a negative and the bottom one is a positive, or just like how it is right here, this one is positive and this one is negative down here, then the answer will be a negative. If the signs are different, then it's negative. If the signs are the same, then it's positive. So there's that. And I'll save the questions for the very end, guys. So if you have a question, then at the end, I'll open it up for questions. So that's that part. Now let's say that we have something like that second question right there. So -5 over -2. So a negative number divided by a negative number, they're both the same sign, so I already know it's going to be positive. And you would do the same thing that you do in class, which is you put the 5 on the inside, the 2 is going to be on the outside right here. And then how many times does 2 go into 5? It goes in there 2 times, because 2 times 2 is 4. So we subtract that. That's going to be a 1. 2 does not go into 1, so we would have to add a 0 there. And then whenever we add a 0, we have to put a decimal up here. And then so 2 goes into 10 5 times. So now that's a 10 right there. And that's it. So we're done with that. So for this question right here, the answer is a 2.5. And the question you have to just ask is, okay, well, is this answer going to be a positive or a negative? If it's a negative number divided by another negative number, the answer is going to be positive. Because remember, the only time that this answer will be a negative is if one of these two was positive. So like if I did this and it was -5 divided by a 2, it would still be 2.5, but in that case, it would be a negative. So I'm going to go to the second page. So on the second page, that's the only time that it gets a little bit tricky. So this second page, this is going to be something new that we haven't really covered. So on the second page, now they start adding in fractions into the mix, or mixed fractions into the mix. So now you're looking at something like this question right here. So 2 and 1/2. So this is a mixed fraction. So 2 and 1/2 times, let's see, -3/4. So now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So now the way to turn this into a fraction is you have to multiply this 2 And this is something completely new, so pay attention to this part right here. So for this mixed fraction, I want to turn it into a normal fraction like this one right here. So what you have to do is 2 times that 2. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then you add this number, 1. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, right? So the top number is going to be 5, and then the bottom number is just going to be whatever the bottom number was to begin with. So this fraction right here, 2 and 1 over 2 ends up turning into 5 over 2. So in that case right there, you would do 2 times 2 plus 1. So 5 over 2. Okay? And then now we can actually work on this problem that was here. So the second fraction over there is going to stay the same. So now it's 5 over 2 times negative 3 over 4. So all we do is we multiply that 5 times that 3, this 2 times that 4, and then get an answer. So 5 times 3, 15. 2 times 4 is 8. And then because this is a positive number and this one is a negative number, they're different signs, so this answer is going to be negative. So negative 15 over 8. So this is your answer right here. So now let me show you guys like something similar, but we'll use some different numbers right here. So instead of it being like that, let's say that we have 3 and let's say it was 2 over 3 and then times let's say it was 5 over 4. Let's do that. So now what you have to do first is the first step again. So what we got to do is we have to multiply this number times this number because we want to turn it into just a normal fraction down here. So this number times this number. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then plus the top number, which is 2. So 9 plus 2, 11. And then that bottom number is going to stay the same. So 11 over 3 times 5 over 4. So that one's going to stay the same. So now all you do is you multiply across. So multiply this one times this one, and you multiply that one times that one. So 11 times 5, 55. And then 3 times 4 is 12. That makes sense? So that's how you turn this mixed fraction into a normal fraction. Now, the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that you guys understand is also the dividing of fractions. So I'll do one more of those examples and then I'll open it up for questions. So let me do one more example of that. So let's say that we are talking about 1 say 4, 1, 2 over 4 divided by, let's say it's 2 over 3. So first what you have to do is let's change this into a regular fraction. So that way I can have that. So 1 times 4, that's what you do first. So 1 times 4 is 4, and then plus the top number. So plus that top one. So 1 times 4 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 6. And then you keep that bottom number, you keep it the same. So it's still going to be a 4. Now what you do in this case is when you're dividing two fractions, you get the reciprocal of the second one. So all we do is, now this is going to be 6 over 4 times 3 over 2. And then all we do is multiply across. So now all you have to do is 6 times 3 and 4 times 2. So 6 times 3, 18. And then 4 times 2, 8. And then remember, like we used to cover simplifying fractions all the time, we can simplify this fraction right here. So since both numbers are even, you can simplify it by dividing by 2. So if we divide it by 2, so 18 divided by 2 is what? We'll do 9. And then 8 divided by 2, 4. And then you're done. So that's simplified. And that's how you divide two fractions. So remember, you're never going to divide fractions. What you're going to have to do is do the reciprocal and then multiply. And that's it. So let me cover a couple more things and then we'll be done. So let's say that we had something that we were dividing to, like let's say 4 over 5 divided by 2 over 5. So in this case, you actually don't even have to do the reciprocal and multiply across and all that stuff. In this case, what you're going to do is you actually just divide. Since the denominator is the same, all you're doing is, what this means is just 4 divided by 2, and that's it. All you do is you focus on the top ones. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the answer to all of that is just 2. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy. Same thing if we were doing something like, let's say, let me do 8 over 3 on this side and 2 over 3. So if we're doing that, if the denominator is the same, so since it's 3 and a 3, since that part is the same, all you do is you focus on the top. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and that's it. You're done. So it looks like it's super complicated, but it's not. When the bottom ones are the same, it's very simple. All you do is you divide the top two, and that's your answer. And you're done. Okay, so now one last thing. So the last thing is making sure that you guys understand about the signs. So negative, and there's that bottom part on page number 2 for assignment number 8. You have -2 times -2. That equals to a +4 because you have a negative times a negative. But if you have -2 times -2, times -2. So now what happens is, since you have a negative times a negative, so these two multiplied together is going to be a positive, but now you're going to have a +4 out of that times a -2. So now the answer is going to go back to negative. So 4 times 2, that's going to be a -8. So 4 times a -2 is a -8 now. And then if I added another -2 to that, then of course now it's going to be a -8 times a -2, and then that would be a +16. So if I do this, -8 times -2, it'll be positive number again, because now you have a negative times a negative. Okay, so we'll go back over here. All right, so I'm gonna open it up so that way if you guys have questions. Okay, so anybody have any questions?
No. Nope.
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, now that, like, when we cover it like this, it's going to be a lot easier because you can actually see what I'm doing. But yeah, if you guys have no questions, yeah, now you can do the assignment number 8. I am going to upload the quizzes for assignment number 8 probably here within the next 15 minutes. And if you guys have any questions, then you can just
Will it be due tomorrow too?
Mister.
Yeah.
So on my math assignments, I don't know how to, like, where I could get to type on them. Like, I tried on Google Docs. When I go to Google Docs to type it, everything deletes.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if you do the quizzes, then you don't have to worry about, like, typing anything out. If you do the like, let's say that you're doing, do that. Okay, so let's say that if you're doing the Google Classroom assignment, you're not going to be able to input the answers directly to there. What you're going to have to do is, if you're doing the Google Classroom assignments, you would have to download it. You're going to have to either print it out, or you can just have it on your computer if you don't have a printer, and then you're going to have to write the actual answers separately on a separate piece of paper. So if you can't print out anything, then you write the answers down on a separate piece of paper, and then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to actually write all of those answers down, and then take a picture of that, and then you would send it to my email. If you have access to quizzes, honestly, I think that quizzes is way, way easier, because once you take that and it uploads, once you're done with it, that's it. It's graded, it's done. You don't have to worry about going back later. You don't have to email anything to me. That's it. I mean, you are, you're done. When you do the quizzes, you're done. So I'm going to upload the quizzes in about 15 minutes here in a little bit. And it's going to be covering this assignment number 8. And then, like I said, if you guys have any questions, just email me, and I'll answer those questions. Or you can also post it to the Google Classroom. Like, I know that you guys can, like, privately message me, send me a private message, and then I'll be able to answer any questions. All right. All right, guys. So have a good weekend, and then I'll see you next week.